I sat in the stillness of my apartment the night before what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. My phone rang, slicing through the quiet. It was Richard, my fiancé. Hello? Richard, is everything okay? I asked, sensing something off in his voice. Elena, I can't marry you, Richard said, his voice devoid of the warmth I knew. A cold wave of shock washed over me. What do you mean? This isn't funny, Richard. It's not a joke, Elena. I'm already married, to someone else. His words were like a dagger to my heart. Married? But we're getting married tomorrow. How could you do this? I struggled to keep my voice steady. I just can't be with someone who overshadows me. You're a top executive, and I'm not. It's too much for me. His tone was emotionless. So this was about his ego. You knew about my job. For 2 years you said nothing, and now this? I need someone simpler, someone who doesn't outdo me. The mix of hurt and disbelief inside me was boiling into anger. And you decide this now, the night before our wedding? Who is she, Richard? It doesn't matter. I've made my choice. You coward, I hissed, anger surging. You let me plan our life together, and now you're backing out like this. I'm sorry, Elena. It is what it is. You're not sorry. You're a coward. I'm glad I know your true colors before it's too late. There was a pause. You'll regret this, Elena. You need me. I don't need a man who doesn't respect me. Goodbye, Richard. I ended the call, my hand shaking with a mix of rage and shock. Sitting alone, the magnitude of the conversation hit me. The man I thought I knew was nothing but a lie. But amidst the hurt, I felt a surprising relief. This wasn't just an ending. It was a beginning. My chance to rebuild my life without Richard's deceitful shadow. My heart hardened with determination. Richard had wounded me deeply, but I wouldn't let him get away with it. He would regret crossing me. I would make sure of that. I lay awake that night, the darkness of my bedroom mirroring the turmoil in my mind. How had I not seen Richard's true colors? Our relationship, once a source of joy, now felt like a well-crafted facade. The painful realization stung. I thought back to how it all started. My uncle, a well-respected businessman, had introduced me to Richard. He's a promising sales manager, he had said. You two might hit it off. I was reluctant, but I agreed to meet Richard out of respect for my uncle. Our first meeting was at a quiet cafe. Richard was charming, attentive, and seemed genuinely interested in my career as a marketing executive. We clicked instantly. I thought I had found someone who understood and respected my ambitions. But as I lay there, replaying our conversations, the signs were clear. Richard's subtle digs at my achievements, his veiled comments about women in leadership, they were all red flags I had ignored. He was never proud of me. He was intimidated by me. I remembered the times he'd belittle my work. It's just marketing, Elena. It's not like you're saving lives, he'd scoff. His words, once brushed off as harmless jokes, now echoed in my mind as clear indicators of his resentment. It dawned on me that his recent behavior, the late nights, the sudden business trips, it wasn't just work. He was seeing someone else. The pieces fell into place, forming a picture of betrayal. I got out of bed, my mind racing with anger and hurt. Richard had humiliated me, but I wasn't going to let him have the last word. He had underestimated me, and that was his biggest mistake. I opened my laptop and began to draft an email to my colleagues. Richard and I had invited them to our wedding, and they deserved to know the truth. I wrote with a clear purpose, detailing Richard's betrayal without sounding bitter. I wanted the facts to speak for themselves. As I hit send, a sense of empowerment washed over me. This was just the beginning. Richard had tried to break me, but instead he had awakened a strength I never knew I had. I would make him regret ever taking me for granted. The game had just begun. The next morning I woke up to a flurry of messages. Colleagues, friends, family, everyone was shocked. The news of Richard's deceit had spread like wildfire. There was an outpouring of support for me, but among these, one message caught my eye. It was from Richard. Can we meet? I think there's been a misunderstanding, his message read. Misunderstanding? The audacity of that word made my blood boil. I agreed to meet him, not for reconciliation, but to confront him, to face the man who had tried to break me. We met at a park, a neutral ground away from prying eyes. Richard was there, looking disheveled, a stark contrast to the composed man I once knew. Elena, thank you for meeting me. I think you got it all wrong, he started, but I cut him off. Save it, Richard. There's nothing you can say to justify your actions. You're a liar and a cheat. What did you expect, calling off our wedding and admitting you're already married? Richard's face reddened. I didn't expect you to react this way. You're blowing this out of proportion. Out of proportion? You were living a double life, Richard. What did you expect me to do? Smile and wish you a happy marriage? He shifted uncomfortably. Look, I know I messed up, but can't we put this behind us? I mean, we were good together, weren't we? I stared at him in disbelief. Put this behind us? You humiliated me, Richard, and now you expect me to just forget it? Elena, please, I know I've made a mistake, but I need you. My job is at risk because of this mess. You have connections. You can help me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You want my help? After everything you've done? He took a step closer. Elena, we can sort this out. I know people are talking, but we can fix this. Together. I stepped back, my resolve hardening. The only thing that needs fixing is your moral compass, Richard. We are done. And as for your job, you should have thought about that before you betrayed me. I turned and walked away, leaving Richard standing there, a picture of desperation. I felt a surge of strength within me. Richard thought he could manipulate me, but he was wrong. I was not the same person he had toyed with. The game had changed, and I was now the one in control. The days following my confrontation with Richard were a whirlwind. My mind was constantly racing, not with sadness but with a burning desire for retribution. Richard had tried to crush me, but he had only fueled my determination. I started by reaching out to a few trusted colleagues and friends, laying the groundwork for my plan. Word of mouth was powerful, and I intended to use it to expose Richard's true character. I shared my story not as a victim, but as a survivor of deceit. My narrative was factual, yet poignant, a tale of betrayal by a man who was a master of manipulation. Then came the opportunity I was waiting for. An industry event was coming up, one Richard and I were supposed to attend together. I decided to go alone, knowing well that Richard would be there. The evening of the event, I walked into the room with confidence. I could feel the eyes on me, the whispered conversations. I spotted Richard in the crowd, his face a mask of unease. As I mingled, I overheard snippets of conversation. That's Elena. Can you believe what Richard did to her? The word was spreading, just as I had planned. Then, Richard approached me, his expression a mix of anger and desperation. Elena, we need to talk. You're ruining me. I looked him straight in the eyes. I'm not doing anything, Richard. If your reputation is ruined, you have only yourself to blame. He grabbed my arm, his grip tight. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Making me the villain. I pulled my arm away. I don't need to make you a villain, Richard. You did that all by yourself. As I walked away, I could feel Richard's eyes burning into my back, but I didn't care. I was no longer the woman he thought he could control. The event was a success. By the end of the night, Richard's deceit was the talk of the town. His professional reputation was crumbling, just as he had tried to shatter mine. But this was just the beginning. I knew Richard would not go down without a fight. I needed to be ready for whatever he had planned. My resolve was firm. I would not back down. This was my battle, and I was determined to win. A few days after the industry event, I was at my office when my phone buzzed with an unexpected call. It was Richard. Against my better judgment, I answered, curiosity getting the better of me. Elena, you need to stop this madness. Richard's voice was laced with frustration. This isn't my doing, Richard. It's the consequence of your actions, I replied coolly. You're destroying my career. I've lost clients, friends. His voice trailed off into a mix of anger and desperation. Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to betray me and lie to everyone, I retorted. I need your help, Elena. You have the power to fix this, to clear my name, he pleaded. Help you? After everything you've done? You must be delusional. I couldn't hide the contempt in my voice. Elena, please, we were good together once. Can't you remember that? There was a hint of something in his voice that sounded almost like sincerity. All I remember is a liar who was leading a double life, I snapped back. There was a pause on the line, and when he spoke again, his voice had changed. It was colder, more calculating. You'll regret this, Elena. If I go down, I'll make sure you come down with me. A chill ran down my spine at his threat, but I refused to show my fear. Is that a threat, Richard? It's a promise, he said, his voice now a menacing whisper. Good luck with that, I said, and ended the call. As I sat back in my chair, I realized that this was far from over. Richard's threat loomed over me, but I was not about to let him intimidate me. I had come too far to back down now. I started to document everything, the calls, messages, any interaction with Richard. If he was planning to come after me, I would be ready. But as I delved deeper into my preparations, I found an unexpected ally. One of Richard's colleagues reached out to me, offering information about Richard's past misdemeanors at work, instances of credit stealing, manipulation, even harassment. It was more than I could have hoped for. Armed with this new information, I knew what I had to do. It was time to take the fight to Richard. I was going to expose him for who he truly was, not just to our social circle, but to his professional world as well. Richard had started this war, but I was going to finish it. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. With the information provided by Richard's colleague, I meticulously compiled a dossier of his professional misconduct. It was a damning portrait of a man who had built his career on deceit and manipulation. I reached out to Richard's company's HR department, presenting them with the evidence. The response was swift and decisive. Richard was suspended pending a full investigation. The news spread quickly, and soon Richard's professional reputation was in tatters. But I wasn't done yet. I had one last card to play. I filed a legal claim against Richard for emotional distress and the financial losses incurred due to the canceled wedding. It was a bold move, but I was determined to hold him accountable. As I walked out of my lawyer's office, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I had stood up to Richard, and I had won. But it was a hollow victory. The man I had once loved was now nothing but a bitter memory. In the midst of all this, my uncle reached out to me. "Elena, you've handled this situation with incredible strength and grace," he said. I shrugged. I did what I had to do. "There's something I want to discuss with you," he continued. "I've been thinking about retirement, and I believe you're the perfect person to take over the business." I was taken aback. "Me? But, Uncle, there are others far more qualified." "You have a keen mind for business, Elena. You've shown that time and again. I can't think of anyone better to lead the company into the future," he insisted. I was hesitant at first, but as we talked, the idea began to take root. This was my chance to step out of Richard's shadow and make a name for myself. "I'll do it," I finally said. "I'll take over the business." My uncle smiled. "I knew you would. I have every confidence in you." As I left my uncle's office, I felt a sense of purpose and excitement for the first time in months. I was going to lead my uncle's company, and I was going to make it my own. Richard had tried to break me, but he had only made me stronger. I was no longer the woman he had betrayed. I was a leader, a fighter, and a survivor. As I looked ahead to the future, I knew there were challenges ahead, but I was ready for them. I had emerged from this ordeal stronger and more determined than ever. Richard's betrayal had been the catalyst for my transformation. I had lost a fiancé, but I had found myself. And that was worth more than any wedding could ever be.
After my husband's company became successful, he started acting different. He didn't hide the fact that he was seeing another woman. When I confronted him about it, he just laughed at me. "You don't make any money, so you should be happy I'm supporting you," he said. "Maybe then I'll think about getting a job." I told him I would find a job myself, and he just laughed and said I could do whatever I wanted. So I got a job at his parents' company, and that's when I decided to get back at him. My name is Karen, and I'm 34 years old. My husband Michael is 36 and runs a printing company. We used to work at the same place. I did illustrations and he worked in sales. We fell in love and got married when I was 26. Later, he left his job and we talked about starting our own company together. I wasn't sure what to do, so I talked to our business partner, Bob. We'd worked with Bob before, back at our old job. He was the CEO there and had his hands in lots of different businesses, especially dealing with advertising. Bob liked my illustrations and was keen to support us. He even put some money into our new venture. "I really like Karen's drawings," he said. "I'm grateful for her talent. Together, we'll make this company a success." I told Bob that I was on board, and we started running the company together. At first, things were tough. We lived in a small apartment, but once the company started doing well, we could afford to move into a fancy condo. That's when my husband asked me to stop working and focus on being a homemaker. I'll find someone else to do the illustrations. I want you to support me, he said. I felt like I had to go along with it, but I knew I had to tell Bob about what was happening. He had invested in our company, so he deserved to know. I'm really sorry, but I have to stop doing the illustrations, I told him. Bob seemed genuinely upset. I'll miss seeing your drawings, Karen. If you ever want to start again, just let me know. I'll always be here to help. Thank you so much, I said gratefully. So I started focusing on being a homemaker to help my husband out. But I couldn't give up drawing completely, so I started sharing my illustrations as a hobby on Instagram. People really liked them, and it became my little secret joy. Even though I stopped working, my husband's company kept growing. Our life got better too. He got a new car, and he started buying expensive suits from famous brands. I didn't really get why he needed all that, but I guess it's important to look good when you're the boss. No matter how busy he got, my husband always made time for dinner at home. It was something we promised each other. Even when things got hectic, he insisted on having that time just for us. We'd sit down, have dinner, and he'd tell me about the future plans for the company. I was happy just to be there for him and support his dreams. I thought it would always be like that. The company kept doing well, but I started noticing a change in my husband. He stopped talking to me about the company during dinner. How's work going? I'd ask. Fine, he'd say, not really interested. I kept asking him about work, wanting to know more, but he snapped at me, saying I wouldn't understand because I'm always at home. It hurt to hear him talk to me like that. I tried to tell myself he was just tired and stressed. That night, he finished his meal quietly and went straight to bed. This went on for a while, and then he started eating dinner out. He'd make excuses about socializing or work events, but he used to always eat at home. Even then, I'd wait for him delaying my dinner, but now he'd just leave without a word. And recently, he wouldn't even bother sending an excuse. When I brought it up, he'd just yell at me. It felt like he was a different person. I started to feel like nothing more than a servant to him, and it made me really upset. When we started the company, we went through tough times together. But now, I felt like I was beneath even his employees. I didn't do housework because I liked it. I did it because I wanted to help him achieve his dreams. But he didn't seem grateful for any of it anymore. While my husband was away, I found solace in my illustrations. It was the only thing that helped me relax. As I kept drawing, more people started following me, leaving kind comments. Even Bob's name popped up among them. He offered to work together again, and just the thought of it made me feel hopeful. Without that hope, I don't know if I could have kept going. As we stopped having dinner together, a gap started growing between my husband and me. Eventually, I started suspecting there was another woman in his life. I smelled a different perfume on his jacket, one he'd never use. When I asked him about it, he just brushed it off, smirking like being caught wouldn't matter. For the first time, my sadness turned into anger. I was tired of being mocked and left alone at home, unable to do anything but chores. I felt anxious about being left behind by society. My friends envied me, but they didn't understand. Even my parents laughed it off as a fancy worry. I had to face this problem alone. Then, one day, my husband came home drunk. I took care of him and put him to bed, but I noticed a lipstick mark on his shirt. There was no way he'd have that mark for no reason. It was like a message from the other woman, a declaration of war. Finally, I had proof of his cheating. The next day, I confronted him with the shirt. "Where were you last night? And what's this kiss mark?" I demanded, pointing at the mark on his shirt. My husband looked surprised by the kiss mark but didn't seem bothered by my questions. "I was out with friends at a bar. It must have happened then, right?" His tone was dismissive. "You'd have to take off your jacket for that to happen. Didn't you notice?" I said I don't remember, he continued, suddenly standing up. His hand came down hard on my cheek in a sharp slap. Stumbling backward, I struggled to process what had just happened. All I felt was a burning pain on my cheek. "When will you get it? Who do you think is providing for us?" My husband's words pierced the air as he walked away, leaving me behind with tears streaming down my face. It felt like my husband didn't love me anymore. The harsh reality shattered me. After that, my husband's behavior became violent whenever he was unhappy. If he didn't like the meal I made, he'd throw the plate on the floor. "This tastes terrible. Don't you know what I like to eat?" he'd yell. If you want to stay married to me, you better improve your cooking. Every time he erupted like this, I felt like I was walking on eggshells. Wait, I'll make what you like. I'd beg, but he never listened. I'll just eat out. Your food will affect my work, he'd say dismissively. I'd chase after him, desperate to fix things. But you're never home or talk to me. How can I make something you like? I'd ask, tears filling my eyes. Clearly irritated by my desperation, my husband clicked his tongue. So do you want a divorce? I'm fine with it. I can manage without you, but you can't manage without me, can you? He sneered. You're worthless, not making any money. You're just living off me like a parasite, he spat out, his words cutting deep into my heart. That was the moment something inside me broke. The loving and caring husband I once knew seemed gone. I'll find a job, I declared, my voice shaking with determination. What? What are you talking about? My husband laughed, his tongue dripping with scorn. Who would hire someone as useless as you? I gritted my teeth, trying to contain my anger. I couldn't let myself lose control and end up facing more abuse. Since I couldn't fight back physically, I had to find another way to stand up for myself. Fine, do whatever you want, my husband sneered. But don't forget about your house chores with your measly income. I won't tolerate neglect. As soon as he left, I sprang into action. I hired a detective to gather evidence of my husband's affair. It didn't take long before I had plenty of photos showing him with other women, drinking, and going into hotels together. 1 week after gathering the evidence, I went to a fancy restaurant on the top floor of a hotel. I wore my best clothes, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being out of place among the wealthy clientele. Bob was already at the table when I arrived. I'm sorry for being late, I said nervously. Don't worry at all, Karen. I've been looking forward to our meeting, Bob said warmly, motioning for me to sit. Waiting for you was no trouble at all. Bob had been a big help when my husband and I started our own business. Now, he was the president of my husband's parent company. Thank you for supporting us when we went independent, I said gratefully. I was surprised when you and your husband decided to go independent, but since we've worked together for so long, supporting you financially was a no-brainer, Bob replied. It seems like your company is thriving, thanks to your efforts. Bob's expression turned serious as he spoke. But today, let's focus on you accepting my invitation, all right? He said, offering a reassuring smile. Yes, of course, I said, sitting up straight and returning his greeting. Bob had always been a big fan of my illustrations. He backed us financially when we decided to go independent because he believed in what I could do. He was also the one person who encouraged me not to give up my career to become a homemaker. We lost touch for a while, but he found me on social media and reached out, I explained. We started talking again through email and text messages. But you always understood my illustrations so well, didn't you? I asked, hoping to confirm our shared understanding. I've always been a fan of your work, and I'm really happy you didn't give up on illustrating, Bob replied warmly. But I never expected you to accept my offer to join my team. Bob had offered me a job as an illustrator before, but I turned him down because of my household responsibilities. Still, he kept reaching out to me, and it was only a week ago that I finally agreed to join him. In a conversation with my husband, Bob seemed hesitant at first, but then he looked me straight in the eyes. I hate to say this, but Michael's company has a pretty bad reputation. What? Really? I was shocked. Everything my husband told me about his job seemed positive, so this news from Bob caught me off guard. I've been working with him for a long time, but ever since the business started growing, the quality of work has gone down. Bob explained. Deadlines are missed, mistakes happen, and he doesn't seem to take responsibility for it. Is this reputation widely known? Well, with his company growing so fast, it's bound to attract attention. But now, it's the wrong kind of attention. There are even rumors about him getting involved with a shady group, Bob said, his tone serious. I had no idea, I admitted, realizing how little I actually knew about my husband's business. Trying to change the subject, Bob said cheerfully, anyway, you'll be creating illustrations for us now. No need to outsource anymore. It's a big win for our company. I really appreciate you being flexible and understanding about my family situation, I said, feeling grateful. It's okay. We don't believe in overworking our employees anyway, Bob said with a reassuring smile. And so I started my job with Bob. My role was solely focused on creating illustrations, so I didn't need to go into the office. Bob allowed me to work from home, which meant I could balance my work with my household responsibilities. Drawing, something I truly loved, brought me so much joy. It had started as a hobby, but now I was thrilled to be working on commissions. As I was working one day, I heard the door slam loudly. When I went to investigate, I found my husband standing there, his eyes filled with rage. "You traitor," he suddenly spat out. I was caught off guard by my husband's sudden outburst. To think my own wife would steal my job. That's when it hit me. The reason for his anger became clear. Since I started working with Bob, I began getting contracts with other companies. Thanks to Bob's recommendations, I managed to secure deals smoothly, and most of these companies were partners with my husband's business. This was my way of getting back at him. It must have been frustrating for him to have jobs taken away by the very person he underestimated. "You don't have any right to say anything to me. I've just been doing my job, and you gave me permission," I said calmly, meeting his rage with determination. My husband's anger burned in his eyes, but I didn't back down. "Go ahead. Hit me if you want. I'll call the police," I declared firmly. "The police?" My husband's anger seemed to lessen a bit at the mention of law enforcement. "My company is failing because of you. What are you trying to do?" he shouted, desperation edging into his voice. "It's not my fault," I replied calmly. I retrieved the divorce papers and handed them to him. "We're not husband and wife anymore." "Don't be absurd. You're divorcing me because my company is failing. You're just after my money," he accused, his words dripping with bitterness. "I could have divorced you at any time, but I thought now was the right time. I have a lot of work now, and I'm making money," I retorted, showing him the evidence of his affair. My husband, hearing everything, fell to his knees and begged, "Please, please. The company is in trouble. I can't handle compensation or a divorce on top of everything. Please support me. Everyone else has abandoned me as soon as they found out the company was struggling. You're the only one who hasn't." I didn't listen to his desperate plea. I left the house with only my work tools and a change of clothes. The next time I returned was to pick up my belongings after the divorce was finalized. My husband's company was making mistakes left and right, and no one wanted to work with him. He spent his days begging to pay me compensation. Meanwhile, I started living on my own, making a living from my illustrations. I became quite wealthy, but I never forgot my integrity, using my ex-husband's actions as a lesson in what not to do. We've been married for 3 years. My father-in-law, who was very kind to me, has passed away after being sick for a long time. He died peacefully with his family around him. "I think we should invite Mom to come live with us," I said. "Yeah, that's a good idea. Her legs and back have been giving her trouble. And since I work from home, I can help her a lot," my spouse agreed. So we decided to ask my mother-in-law to come live with us. My spouse told the family about our plan before the funeral. "Why are you saying that? You just asked your mom for her savings of $2 million, didn't you?" one family member said. "Don't worry, we're going to take care of her and live with her," my spouse reassured. "That's right. She wouldn't have to worry as much in her current home. Leave it to us," I added. Some of my sisters-in-law, seeming rushed and insistent, agreed to live with her. "It's not about the money. You shouldn't think that way. Mom gets to decide, and I respect her choice," I replied to their accusations. When Liam asked, our mother-in-law bowed her head and said, "Thank you. Your child is still small, so I'll stay at my current house," she said, meaning she'd rely on her daughter. "I've never heard about any savings," I remarked, surprised by the sudden accusations. The couple acted like we were the bad guys for suggesting we live together without worrying about money. "Maybe she's the one who wants to live together," Liam wondered aloud as we drove home. In the car ride back, Mia thought about this. "I agree. I get that feeling too." "We should check in on your mom when we have time," I suggested. After that, I visited her when I could and tried my best to look after her, hoping it would make Liam feel better. But within a few months, their attitude towards my mother-in-law changed a lot. One day, when I stopped by during a break from work, my sister-in-law was there. She grabbed the cake I brought as a gift and checked it. After she seemed satisfied, she suddenly told me to come inside. "Oh, Amber, you're here to visit," my mother-in-law greeted. "I got a cake you like. Please have some later." Thank you, I replied. I noticed she was wearing the same clothes as yesterday. If doing laundry is hard for you, I can take it home, wash it, and bring it back, I offered. Maybe you're struggling with housework because you're not feeling well physically, I suggested. I'm concerned because only their laundry is usually hung outside, and I'm worried she's losing weight. If she's eating 3 meals a day, this shouldn't be happening. I'm fine, Emma, thank you, my mother-in-law insisted, trying to avoid worry. But, I persisted, you keep coming every day. Sarah, my sister-in-law, interrupted me and looked at her own mother, as if she were something dirty. Sarah, you promised we'd take care of Mom, didn't you? I reminded her. So what? She snapped back. Exactly. At that time, she refused our offer because she said we'd take care of her. But what's really going on with my mother-in-law's situation? I wondered aloud. Because Mama's savings were used to buy a new car, so now she's a poor old woman with no money. Get it? You wanted to call her in, but it costs money now, so you don't want her anymore, Sarah accused, her tone accusatory. What the heck, saying things like that? I exclaimed, feeling guilty for not taking my mother-in-law in earlier. She sat behind me, looking uncomfortable. She's your real mother. It's shocking that you can talk about money like this, especially after she spent her hard-earned savings. Please be careful with your words when you say you don't need her. Please think more about Mom, I urged. You're so annoying, Sarah grumbled, seeming unwilling to have a reasonable conversation. Not wanting to make things more uncomfortable, I called Liam to explain, and we decided to bring her to our house starting today. I quickly packed her things, got her into the car, and drove her to our house. My sister-in-law didn't seem to realize how insensitive she was being, and my mother-in-law was surprised by how quickly I acted. After that, our family of 4, including my mother-in-law, began living together. Emma, I'm sorry for being a burden, especially when your child is still young. And you have to take care of me too. My mother-in-law apologized. Why are you apologizing? Don't worry about it, we're family, right? I reassured her with a smile. She had always treated me well, like her own child, even though I came from an orphanage. Living with her made me feel happy and refreshed. I'm happy living with you, and it's my first time raising a child. There are many things I don't know, so I want you to teach me, she said, with a half smile. My husband is also happy with how things are going, and most importantly, my mother-in-law seems to be enjoying living with her grandchild. But despite this happiness, our financial situation as a couple wasn't great. We were cutting back on expenses and just getting by each day. Still, I was learning about saving money, and I didn't want to rely too much on it for happiness. But I had a dream. I always wanted to open a cafe, so even when I was a student, I worked part-time at a popular cafe. However, bringing my mother-in-law into our home meant putting my dream on hold. I didn't want to give it up for my family, so I worked hard to save money, continued working from home, took care of my child, and managed daily household tasks. One day, about 6 months after my mother-in-law moved in, she called me in a serious tone. Eva, please come here, she said. Yes, what is it? I asked as I approached. She handed me a thick envelope. This is for your living expenses. Take it without saying anything. When I checked inside, I saw bundles of $100 bills. I was surprised. Wow, is this money? I've always been good at saving. I have a habit of keeping bundles of bills, she explained calmly. I couldn't believe it as I counted. There were several $1,000s. Indeed, when I counted, it was exactly $7,000, she confirmed with a smile. I can't accept this much, I protested, trying to refuse, but she stopped me. I'm sorry for testing you. I was planning to see how you manage finances for a year, but I don't need to worry anymore. By giving you more money for living expenses, I made you stick to strict saving habits. I didn't want to burden you anymore. Please accept it. I'll cover the living expenses. How about $2,000? She suggested. I stared at my mother-in-law, stunned. Oh no. I don't need $2,000, but why so much money? I was still a bit confused. She explained that she won the lottery and started studying popular investment strategies. It turned out to be profitable. She actually had $80,000 in savings in a bank account and invested in stocks through the bank. My sister-in-law, hoping to inherit money from her father, set up a fake $20,000 to test their financial responsibility. When she gave them $200,000 for their future expenses, they couldn't make it last even a week. Even my father-in-law, before he passed away, was aware of my sister-in-law and her husband's spending habits. He mentioned the possibility of cutting them off if they tried to take all his inheritance. My mother-in-law thought it might happen. "But you don't put money first," my mother-in-law continued. "I was surprised but really happy when you refused to take the money out. That's why I want you to accept it. And I also want to help you achieve your dream." My mother-in-law must have heard about my dream from my husband. But is it okay to accept her generosity? I wondered. After discussing it with my husband, we decided to save the money for the future. When I told my mother-in-law, she understood and agreed. A few days later, my sister-in-law and her husband showed up unexpectedly, demanding to move back in with my mother-in-law. Luckily, my husband was home that day, so he handled the situation, and they left without causing any trouble. But I couldn't shake my concern for them. When my mother-in-law saw them, she suggested that we set a specific day for their visits since they might come again soon. Eventually, they agreed, and they came on the agreed-upon day and time. As soon as they entered the house, my sister-in-law demanded, "Pack up quickly, we're going home right now," without even saying hello. But my mother-in-law calmly responded, "What I was waiting for was, we've been waiting for you. Please have a seat." "How dare you? Who are you?" My sister-in-law snapped. "I'm John, an attorney," a voice from the next room replied. It turned out that my mother-in-law had hired a lawyer. We were in the next room and could imagine my sister-in-law and her husband panicking as we heard the conversation. The lawyer explained their demands. "We won't give away any current assets. They must repay the entire $2,000 they spent, and they have to leave the home they are occupying now." "No way, ma'am. I'm your daughter. How can you cut ties like that when your own daughter is in trouble?" My sister-in-law countered loudly. "Please reconsider," my brother-in-law added, raising his voice, which was unusual for him. But my mother-in-law remained unfazed and spoke calmly. "If that's the case, then you've forgotten what you did to me. Do you remember? I'm an elderly woman with no money. You said you didn't need money because I didn't. Despite having debts, you used the living expenses I gave you to buy a new car. And now I hear that your debts have more than doubled. You don't know how to handle money. Don't borrow from others. Moving in with me was just an excuse because you couldn't afford rent. It's your own fault. Regarding my husband's inheritance, I'll also ask you to give up your rights. I won't help you in the future. Remember that." Unable to respond, my sister-in-law and her husband left quietly, feeling hopeless after hearing from the lawyer. Despite their daughters' and husband's refusal to leave, they eventually moved out of the family home, and now no one knows where they are. When I asked my mother-in-law if she regretted her decision despite being blood relatives, she replied firmly, "As a mother, sometimes you have to let your child stand on their own." I didn't ask any more questions. As time went on, the savings we had from our monthly living expenses grew. "You can use that money for yourselves," my mother-in-law told us. After discussing it with my husband, we decided to use it for a family trip we had been putting off and as capital to open the cafe we had always dreamed of. With my mother-in-law's support, we took a step toward our dream that we had been hesitant to pursue. Despite facing many challenges leading up to the opening, we managed to overcome them together. As the grand opening approached, my husband quit his job at the wholesale company to help me source materials for the cafe and speed up the preparations. We renovated the family home where my mother-in-law and father-in-law used to live, turning it into the cafe. It was important to my husband to preserve the atmosphere of the building as a place of cherished memories for my in-laws. Although it took time to prepare, the cafe quickly became a beloved spot in the community, offering people a place to relax. I was surprised when my sister-in-law and her husband visited the cafe once, but they seemed much more humble than before. It looked like they had truly changed. "Looks like those two still have some learning to do," my husband remarked with a sigh. Tears of joy filled my mother-in-law's eyes as the family home transformed into a cafe, preserving the memories she had with my father-in-law. She became more active in her rehabilitation, addressing her previously ailing legs and hips. When she felt confident in her physical condition, she put on the same apron as us and stood behind the counter, looking vibrant and alive. It felt as if my father-in-law, watching from the border of a photo, was smiling down at her. Geez, your mom only went to middle school and works part-time. Do you just care about money? When my mom told my future father-in-law she was a janitor, everyone laughed. He sneered seriously. A cleaning lady, that's as low as it gets. It hurt me deep. They were making fun of my mom who raised me on her own. It was so mean. I couldn't imagine being related to them. Let's just forget this happened, I said coldly, trying to move on. My name's Emily Yale. I'm 26. I graduated from a public college with a teaching degree, and now I teach English at a public high school. I enjoy my life. Today, I'm going on a date with my boyfriend, John, on a weekday, something we haven't done in a while. We're going to a restaurant he picked. Sorry, I'm late. You've had a busy week, John said when he got there. You too. Thanks for all your hard work, I said. John, my age, finished medical school and is now a resident doctor. We met in college and have been dating for 5 years. He's really kind and genuine, almost too good for me. Sometimes when we're both stressed with exams, we'd argue, but we always make up and help each other. As I ate dessert, I noticed this restaurant was fancier than usual. Suddenly, John got serious. My residency's ending soon. Being a doctor is tough, but I want us to be together through it all. Emily, will you marry me? He showed me a ring. Tears filled my eyes as I looked at him. Yes, I'm so happy. We can always rely on each other, I said, my voice shaking as I accepted his proposal. I thought my mom would be happy for us, but she seemed hesitant. My mom, Linda, lost her husband when I was young and raised me by herself. My grandpa once suggested we live together, but she wanted just us two. I met my grandparents for the first time in elementary school because I got married against my parents' wishes. I was young and stubborn, so I didn't rely on them right away. My mom always says, I might have caused you to suffer because of that. But I never felt that way. She's always been positive, kind, and loving. She's the most important person in my life and who I want to be like. When John and I went to tell my mom about our engagement, she blessed us with all her heart. John said, "Thank you, I'm excited for our future." My mom was almost in tears, happy for us. I said, "We should also tell your parents." "Thank you. I didn't see my family much since boarding school and college, but they'll be happy. Make sure to introduce yourself properly to John's family. You're becoming part of their family," my mom said, fully supporting us. I heard John's family are all doctors. His dad owns a hospital, and his mom stays at home. He also has a younger brother who's 8 years younger. I hope we get along, but meeting them makes me nervous. "Don't worry, I'll find us a place to live," John said. "Thanks. I'm nervous, but I'm excited too." I believed a bright future was ahead of us until that day, the meetup, 2 months later. We waited in a fancy restaurant's private room as John's parents and brother arrived a bit late. "Nice to meet you. This is my mom. My dad runs a clinic. Mom's a full-time housewife. And this is my brother, a high school senior." John introduced them. We introduced our families. John's doctor parents looked impressive, but his brother seemed more casual with messy hair and a disheveled uniform, glued to his phone. Then John said, "I want to marry her." His dad gently corrected him. "First, let's learn about her family. If we're becoming family, we should understand their background and character," his mom added, assessing us with serious eyes. "Where's your father today?" his dad asked. I've told John to say we're a single-parent household. Something's off. My dad passed away when I was young, so my mom raised me alone, I explained. His brother exaggeratedly twisted his face and said, "Seriously? Just one parent? Ridiculous." The one with the attitude crossing his legs was John's arrogant younger brother. "What's that supposed to mean? My mom raised me alone, and I'm thankful for it," I said, raising my voice. "Mind your manners and put away your phone," John scolded him, and his brother turned away angrily. "You're a high school teacher, right?" his mom asked me this time. "Yes, I teach English at a public high school," I replied. As soon as I spoke, his family all chimed in at once. "A teacher? None of us are teachers, and she's in humanities. Isn't she unsuitable for our son? We wanted him to marry a doctor's daughter. A public high school teacher seems plain and poor. I'm in a totally different world. I already have a recommendation for medical school," they said bluntly. John, shocked by their words, spoke up. "She's an amazing woman. She's dedicated to her job. Don't talk about her like that." Then his dad glanced at my mom. "We haven't agreed to their marriage yet. a single mother, and a teacher. What about you, ma'am? Can we ask about your education and job? My mom replied firmly, I've done different jobs since my husband died. Right now, I work as a janitor at a hospital. I only finished middle school. Before my mom finished, his family started laughing. Oh, she only went to middle school and does part-time work. Must have been very poor. His father dismissed my mother. Seriously, even with just a high school diploma, you're in a tough spot. So now she's a cleaning lady. Lowest of the low, his younger brother sneered. Your mom only finished middle school and works part-time. I couldn't even imagine such a life. Marrying into a family of doctors, I couldn't comprehend their attitude. Was this marriage just for money? His mother's dramatic frown delivered the final blow. As I suspected, we can't approve this marriage, his father declared, as if it were final. How terrible. I was stunned, speechless. Insulting me was one thing, but mocking my mother who raised me alone was unforgivable. I couldn't be part of this family. Stopping my mother from standing, I stood up. I understand how you all feel, so let's pretend this meeting never happened. Is that acceptable? With a cold, emotionless face, I declared. After a moment of silence, his family exchanged glances and burst into laughter. I thought you had something important to say. We're the ones calling off the engagement. Did you realize we were going to reject you and decided to end it first out of pride? His parents said, smug. Wait, that's not it. John couldn't stand his parents' behavior. I'm sorry. I can't be part of this family. I'm really sorry for their rudeness. Seeing our serious conversation, his parents paused their laughter. Why are you apologizing? You should find a more suitable partner. Maybe another doctor or a wealthy woman, they said. I stopped John from saying more and asked, would it have been better if I were a rich heiress? Of course, even if you're not a doctor, being rich wouldn't be a problem. You could help our hospital, right, dear? That might even be better for us. His parents laughed, continuing their show. So, you're saying you'd pass up such an opportunity? I challenged. What do you mean? They looked confused. By marrying our son, you'd gain some wealth. Where would a janitor and a regular teacher get that kind of money? John sighed heavily, rubbing his temples. What's going on? You're acting strange, his dad said, oblivious. Did you even listen to their introductions? Does the name Yale not mean anything to you? John asked. What about it? Not worth remembering such a family, his dad replied. Yale, huh? His dad seemed to catch on. Right? My grandpa chairs Yale University, and she's his daughter. Yale Academy, that elite place with everything from kindergarten to university? It has a medical school and hospital. His dad's eyes widened. Yeah, that Yale. You've heard of it, right? I said, taking charge. No way. A Yale Academy daughter dropping out of middle school to become a janitor? That's impossible, his parents exclaimed. Exactly. Your lie will be found out right away. If you're feeling guilty, come up with a better lie, I advised them. My mom works as a janitor in hospitals and schools, right? I'm talking about the hospitals and grad schools at Yale. What? She's undercover as a janitor? That's fancy talk for spying, right? Her job is to check on the school while cleaning and report any problems. My grandpa asked her to do it. If you don't believe it, go check, John explained. What? What? My detailed explanation seemed to convince them. His parents started to panic. Why didn't you tell us this sooner? Yes, if we knew that, we would have. This is what happens when you don't listen to people, his parents admitted, feeling foolish. I was about to explain further when I was cut off. I was ready to answer any questions, but it was unfortunate. I couldn't forgive how they insulted my mom. I quietly responded, my mom dropped out of middle school due to poor health since childhood. She had a brother to carry on the family line, so my grandpa prioritized her health over education. After middle school, she moved to a country house for ongoing treatment and rest. There, she fell in love with my dad. She argued with my grandparents, who wanted her to marry into a suitable family and left home to marry. They didn't rely on her family at all. But when my dad died and she raised me alone, my grandparents suggested we come back. She didn't agree immediately. I was stubborn, she said. She felt guilty for leaving and then asking to return. Over time, they wanted to see their grandchild and their relationship improved. Changing her name back to Yale was for my sake. His brother was stunned. So I told him, it seems you've been recommended for medical school. Which university? What? What? John's brother was caught off guard by the sudden change in topic. Oh, so it's Vassar College's medical? Oh. His mother realized something as she said that. Vassar College is linked to Yale. If I mention today's events, your admission recommendation could be canceled, right? Hey, don't joke. Our son got in, and nothing can change that. We even pay extra to cover his grades. Canceling it now would be ridiculous. His dad slipped up, admitting to bribery. Both John and I said together, "You went that far, Dad." No, it's not. His father was clearly flustered, his mom and brother turning pale beside him. Treating admissions so lightly, was it all about money? Did you bribe his teacher? I pressed. No, I already said. The president of Vassar College is my uncle. If I report this, he'll investigate thoroughly, I warned. What right do you have? You're so arrogant, his mom snapped, her face red with anger. I hold no authority here, but I was told I'd eventually work at Yale. I explained calmly. Say what now? His mother's tone softened. Oh, let's calm down. Let's forget what's happened. Your behavior will determine if I approve of this marriage. Is that fair? Yeah. Our son is also the clinic's heir. He needs our approval to marry. You want to marry John, right? His father was on board, and his brother added, just let them get married and don't cut me out. Faced with their selfishness, John exploded. I don't need your permission. I'm cutting ties with you all. What? His family was stunned. I always thought you were pretentious because we're doctors, but I never expected this at our first meeting with my partner. What are you saying? Fine, cut us off. Facing his speechless parents, he continued, unashamed of how you treated her and her mom, and bribing for my brother's admission. I despise you. I'm marrying her and being happy. Stay out of our lives. With that, his parents were flustered. So, you're not taking over the clinic. If our other son doesn't get into medical school, there's no heir. He brushed off his parents. I'm not taking over. I've been asked to work as a surgeon after Yale. I'm considering that over working at your clinic. What? I don't care. Let him take over. Wait, we have patients counting on you. That's right. We'll be in trouble if you don't take over. Ignoring the chaos, he turned to my mom. I'm sorry. I want to cut ties with my family and build a home with your daughter. Please let us marry. His voice trembled a bit. You don't need to apologize. I didn't fall for you because you're a doctor. I fell in love with your kindness and sincerity. My mom, standing beside him, nodded. That's right. You're kind and respectable. Being a surgeon is amazing. I support your dreams and happiness. Thank you. I'd appreciate it. He continued to bow, and my mom smiled. His family watched in shock. Mom, let's go home. There's no point in staying. Agreed. We'll leave. If you need anything, contact us. My mom left Yale's legal advisor's business card as she left. 1 year has passed since then, and John and I are happily married, living together. He's been working diligently as a skilled surgeon at the hospital after graduating from Yale. Despite his busy schedule and lack of sleep, I'm glad to see his enthusiasm for his work. My grandfather, who admires him, hopes he'll join our university's hospital in the future. As for his family, the truth about my brother-in-law's bribery came out, and the teacher who took the money was punished. His admission was revoked, and he's now trying to get into med school through regular channels. But it's tough given his attitude. His parents' clinic struggled because of the director's arrogance. Patients left when they realized John wouldn't take over, and most of the staff quit due to his mom's behavior. They faced social backlash and eventually closed the clinic. As for me, I've started studying educational administration at my grandfather's suggestion. He hopes I'll contribute to managing our institutions. With guidance from my uncle and seniors, I'm learning and growing. My mom said, it's great to see our family grow closer. I'm truly happy to hear that. I want to give back more in the future. Though my days are busy, I'm grateful for the support from my mom and husband. My daughter came home crying after she was invited to a Christmas party at my husband's parents' house. When I asked her why she was upset, she handed me a gift-wrapped present without saying a word. Mom, look at this. Why did this happen to me? She asked. I was shocked when I opened the present. It wasn't something meant for a child. I quickly went to the police and asked them to find out who gave this present to my daughter. The police investigation revealed that Ed was the one who sent it, and it caused a lot of trouble with our family members. Ed faced serious consequences for his actions. I'm in my 40s and my husband is in his 30s. We both work at the same company. I started working there when I was in my mid-30s after leaving my previous job because my boss insulted me at a party. He called me an old maid because I wasn't married by the time I turned 30. But at my current job, people are judged by their skills, not their age or gender. My husband, who is now my boss, helped me settle in when I first joined the company. We got married quickly, and now we have a daughter in 3rd grade. She's a quiet girl who loves to read and is always kind to others. My husband's sister is quite troublesome, and we don't get along well. Thankfully, I have a good relationship with my in-laws, which makes things a bit easier. My sister-in-law, who really loves her brother, doesn't seem to like that I'm older than him and married to him. She made fun of our quick wedding, calling me names like old hag and suggesting I was too eager for marriage. Despite her comments, she used to visit us often when we first got married. Being older when I had a baby made it harder to get my body back in shape. She'd make rude remarks about my body, saying things like my belly was wrinkled and saggy from childbirth. She even joked that it would droop to the floor. She said I'd probably go gray from the stress of having a baby. Every time she left, she'd make mean comments about me getting dumped by her brother as I aged. I try to brush off her hurtful words, but it's hard not to feel bad about being older than my husband. I distract myself to avoid thinking about it too much, but her laughter still echoes in my mind sometimes. Shortly before I was due to give birth, my sister-in-law's pregnancy was revealed, and she also had a quick wedding. It seemed like she didn't care about anyone else's feelings. After that, she stopped visiting us, and we didn't see each other much because she moved to another city to live with my in-laws after getting married. I was relieved not to have to deal with her sarcastic comments anymore, and I could focus on getting ready for my baby's arrival. When I finally gave birth to a healthy baby girl, it was a bit tough, and it took some time. But my husband was by my side the whole time, holding my hand and cheering me on. When we heard our daughter cry for the first time in the delivery room, my husband thanked me and said, "You did great." We both cried tears of joy together. 7 months after our daughter was born, my sister-in-law had a baby boy. Then she started coming to our house, even though it was a long drive for her. She'd make mean comments to me, comparing our children. She'd say things like, "It's obvious that a kid born to an older mom would have a wrinkled face. My kid's skin is so smooth, isn't it?" The age of the mother at birth really affects the child. I didn't know how to respond to her hurtful words. I was too busy dealing with the challenges of being a new parent to pay much attention to her. The problem was, she never brought any baby supplies with her when she visited. She'd come without spare diapers or formula, and then take a bunch home, saying she didn't want to run out. She'd even take unopened formula with her, like it was normal. I couldn't understand why she would insult me and then take things from our house. But then she stopped coming. My husband said that her husband's job required them to move to a different state. We enjoyed some peaceful times until our daughter started elementary school and found out her cousin, my sister-in-law's son, was also enrolled there. We moved back here because of my husband's job transfer. That's when I knew my peace was over. Even though my daughter and her cousin had different parents, they got along really well. My daughter, who was older and very sincere and kind, looked after her cousin. He, on the other hand, was very popular and had lots of friends. When they both reached the 3rd grade, they ended up in the same class. One day, my daughter won an award for a reading reflection she wrote for a summer project. It was so good that it even got published in the newspaper. The whole family and relatives were talking about it. During a break between school terms, we were visiting my in-laws. This time, maybe because they heard about my daughter's award, some relatives were there who usually didn't get together. But my sister-in-law wasn't happy that our family was getting so much attention. She complained, saying, "It's not fair. That book was supposed to be for my son, but your daughter took it." The truth was, they had just swapped books. They couldn't decide which book they wanted to read, so they agreed to swap after finishing. After they both finished reading both books, they talked about it and decided together which book report to write. My nephew liked the book my daughter read first, so she let him have it. When I explained the situation to my sister-in-law, she accused me of writing the award-winning reflection for my daughter. I used to write novels as a hobby in college, something she must have heard from my husband. Unbeknownst to me, she started spreading rumors among the parents at school. saying I had a connection with one of the judges and asked for a favor for my daughter's writing competition. My daughter heard these rumors and became really upset. She even stopped reading her favorite books, feeling downcast. Seeing my daughter so upset, not just because of me, but also because she became the target of mean comments, I couldn't take it anymore. I wanted to talk to my in-laws about everything that had happened, but I first confessed everything to my husband. It was the first time I told him about all the things his sister had done to me since we got married. She even took clothes I bought for my daughter when she was a baby, saying babies couldn't tell the difference between boys' and girls' clothes. She also insulted me and called me fat when I was pregnant, saying I looked like a sumo wrestler and should try a sumo stomp. My husband was furious, rightfully so, and he said it's not something to say to a pregnant woman. He called his sister's actions theft. He decided we should share everything with his parents, and he would be the one to tell them. So my husband and his parents went to my sister-in-law's house together. She was surprised to see them, but happy to see her beloved older brother. However, she ended up getting a harsh lecture from him and started to resent me even more. "You snitched to my favorite brother, you old hag. Acting like a tragic heroine must feel good, right? It's the worst for me, though. Take responsibility, you old ma," she said. At first, I thought she might be calling to apologize, but it turned out she just wanted to vent her anger at me. So I stopped answering her calls and let them go to voicemail. After about 2 weeks, the calls stopped, and I thought she had lost interest since I wasn't responding. But later, I found out that wasn't the case. In December, my in-laws organized a children's Christmas party for the first time. I was curious why they decided to do it this year. My daughter was thrilled to receive an invitation because she had fond memories of Christmas parties from her kindergarten days and was hoping her elementary school would have one too. However, her school didn't celebrate Christmas due to their policy on religious events. Why argue about religious reasons when Christmas has its own special meaning? I wondered. But apparently, some parents had strong opinions about it. I told my daughter we could have our own celebration at home since we did that last year. She was excited about the party and enjoyed picking out a gift for the gift exchange. The invitation for the party asked us to bring a gift worth around $20, so my daughter and I spent some time shopping at a nearby mall to find the perfect present. She chose one of her favorite picture books to share her thoughts with whoever received it. On the day of the Christmas party, she carefully held the present she picked and happily headed to my in-laws. Their house is just a 10-minute bus ride away from the bus stop, which is only a minute's walk from our house. I let my mother-in-law know that my daughter was coming, and she offered to pick her up. 10 minutes later, my mother-in-law called to say that my daughter had arrived safely, and I finally felt at ease. But 30 minutes later, everything changed. I had expected my daughter to be enjoying the Christmas party by now, but suddenly I heard the front door open. It was a weekday and my husband was at work. I was working from home because my daughter was on winter break. The unexpected sound of the door opening alarmed me, so I rushed to the entrance only to find my daughter sitting on the floor crying. I asked her what happened, and she handed me a gift-wrapped bag. She said I would understand once I looked inside, so I opened it. Inside was a torn-up newspaper with my daughter's reading reflection printed on it, along with a message card. The card, written in red ink, said, "If you get too cocky, you and your family will end up like this stuffed animal." There were also patterns that looked like blood splatters. Digging further inside, I found a stuffed animal that had been torn to pieces and covered in red ink. It was too cruel to be a joke. There was no way my daughter would coincidentally receive such a gift. During the gift exchange, my daughter explained that my sister-in-law had prepared this special present for her. Even though we agreed as a family that adults shouldn't personally prepare gifts for the child-focused Christmas party, my sister-in-law was at my in-laws' house. I didn't accompany my daughter because of this agreement. However, my sister-in-law's presence caught me off guard. My mother-in-law would have informed me if she had known my sister-in-law was there, but she didn't notice her. "Didn't you tell Grandma?" my daughter asked. My mother-in-law had always encouraged us to let her know if her daughter did or said anything to us. I had also communicated this to my daughter. When I tried to tell my daughter what happened, my aunt interrupted and said she hadn't called for me. She explained that only children with a connection to missionary schools were allowed. My daughter asked, "What's a missionary school?" and I was speechless. Just this spring, one of our relatives had passed the entrance exam for a missionary school, which had become a big topic of conversation. My sister-in-law's son also attended a missionary kindergarten. My sister-in-law must have thought this topic would be a way to scold my daughter. I told my daughter to stay inside with the gift she received while I rushed to the police station alone. I argued that it was a serious threat, but the police suggested resolving the matter within the family. However, I insisted that threats can be valid even among family members or siblings. Not only were there threatening words, but also a threatening letter and a mutilated stuffed animal, which I argued was malicious. Fortunately, a female police officer happened to pass by and empathized with how scared my daughter and I must have been. After I provided my sister-in-law's address, she promised to go and warn her right away. My wishes were fulfilled in the end, but I shudder to think what might have happened if that officer hadn't passed by. It was disheartening to realize that some members of the police force still wouldn't take action unless there was an actual incident or accident. I worried about how I could protect my daughter in case of an emergency. That evening, when my husband returned from work, I told him everything that happened. He was furious with his sister for ruining our daughter's fun out of spite. He immediately called his parents to express his anger, since the Christmas party was happening at their house and they supposedly didn't know anything about it. They claimed they had no idea my sister-in-law was there. They had left the back door unlocked, so she might have entered that way. My mother-in-law apologized for not paying attention to who was coming and going as she was busy picking up other grandchildren nearby. My father-in-law had been away at work during the day. The Christmas party was mainly organized by the older nephews and nieces, and my mother-in-law had mostly left it to them. Later, the police officer firmly warned my sister-in-law. From what I heard, she was told that any further reports could lead to more than just a warning, so things should be fine for the most part. However, my in-laws were upset by my sister-in-law's actions, which had escalated to involve the police. It could potentially lead to criminal behavior. As a result, they called a meeting with both our family and my sister-in-law's family with the parents present for discussion. When we arrived at my in-laws' house for dessert, my sister-in-law and her husband hadn't shown up yet. They finally appeared right at the last minute, with my sister-in-law clearly sulking. It was obvious she wasn't remorseful and resented me for involving the police. Her husband, sitting next to her, seemed clueless about why they were summoned. He'd appeared to have been called without being informed of the reason. During the discussion, he was shocked to hear for the first time about all the things his wife had done to our family, unaware that things had gotten to this point. He profusely apologized to us, feeling sorry. Seeing his reaction, my in-laws asked my sister-in-law if she had anything to say, but she just responded with, "Not really." She didn't seem to understand why she needed to apologize, acting as if she hadn't done anything wrong. I didn't do anything bad. The police came but didn't arrest me, right? So that means I didn't do anything wrong. Everyone else was dumbfounded by her logic. It was like they couldn't close their mouths from shock. Lecturing her seemed like a waste of time. Then, unexpectedly, my sister-in-law's husband announced he was divorcing her. We were all puzzled because it seemed like they had a good marriage. Seeing our surprised looks, he confessed that he had reached his limit with her behavior since they got married. He hadn't complained about her not doing housework during pregnancy, and he hadn't scolded her for neglecting childcare and going out to have fun, thinking it was stress from being a new parent. But her carelessness with housework once led to a small fire that forced them to move. She, being vain, had insisted on their son attending a prestigious kindergarten when she heard other neighborhood kids were applying. But he didn't get in due to a lack of preparation. Embarrassed, she forced another move. While his job did involve transfers, they weren't as frequent as their moves suggested. He revealed that the frequent moves were not just because of his job transfers, but also to maintain my sister-in-law's image. After failing the kindergarten entrance exam, she tried to get him into an international kindergarten. And when that didn't work out, they barely managed to get him into a missionary kindergarten. Choosing a public elementary school was only because their son wanted it, and my sister-in-law reluctantly agreed. After her husband supported their son's wishes, he feared their son would be sacrificed for her vanity and had been considering divorce already. With her harassment coming to light, he felt he had no other choice but to announce it now. My sister-in-law, somewhat aware of her actions, didn't dispute what he said but seemed taken aback by the divorce. "Wait, what do you mean divorce? You never showed any signs of this," she said, suddenly starting to apologize to us, thinking it would help. "It was just a joke, right?" Just a little prank. I never thought you'd take it seriously, she insisted. A joke? A prank? Those are things done among people who trust each other. My daughter knows all about what you've done to me. How could she take it as a joke? Moreover, that hostile message was too much for a third grader. Even adults would be scared to go outside if someone threatened them, I told her. Her husband criticized her, asking if she could say the same thing to her own child, and said her actions were unimaginable for a parent. Just because someone is a parent doesn't mean they have parental feelings. There are people who can't be real parents, and she is probably one of them, my husband said sternly, seeing her crying. Crying wouldn't fix anything at her age, and she needed to stop thinking tears would get her out of trouble, he added. She cried even more, insisting she did nothing wrong and wasn't to blame. Why am I the only one being blamed? Is everyone ganging up on me? She cried. It's all because my brother married an older woman. My brother's wife should be smart, beautiful, and so on. Our marriage and her harassment are totally separate issues, right? We already thought she was a bit off, but even my husband was astonished at her stupidity. I explained. No one tried to comfort the inconsolable sister-in-law. The discussion couldn't continue, so we decided to adjourn for the day. Her husband had to drag her to the car and take her home. Their divorce eventually happened, but it was a messy affair due to her stubborn refusal to agree. Her son's accidental revelation might have been a factor in her agreeing to the divorce. He, without any malicious intent, simply shared what he saw with his friends. However, the parents who heard the rumor did not remain silent. After winter break at school, my nephew talked about having a Christmas party with his older cousins. It seems that at school, they used a class to have a presentation about their winter break memories. Among stories about what they did on New Year's Day and video game consoles they received as Christmas gifts, we all exchanged presents. Then I saw my mom giving my cousin a special present just for her, and I thought it was unfair. When the teacher asked what kind of present it was, my nephew described exactly what he saw. I saw it. The cute stuffed animal was all torn up with lots of red stuff on it, like blood, he said. The story became a topic of discussion among the school teachers and escalated into a major issue after the children who heard it went home and told their parents. My daughter, still heartbroken, hasn't been able to go back to school since the Christmas party. Everyone knew that my daughter and her cousin were related, so they speculated that her absence was related to the incident, and they were right, but I wished it had gone unnoticed and left undisturbed. I had planned to wait until my daughter was ready to return to school on her own terms. Her cousin didn't share the story to be funny, but rather to find a way to stop his mom's terrible behavior. He too was hurt by her actions. Learning this, her husband realized he couldn't delay the divorce any longer and agreed to her demands in exchange for her consent to the divorce. By then, she had become infamous in the neighborhood as the woman who threatened children, and no one wanted anything to do with her. She was even pelted with garbage when walking outside. Feeling cornered, she agreed to the divorce, thinking returning to her parents' home would end her nightmare. Her husband had no intention of giving up custody, but she readily relinquished it. I'll remarry someone much better than you. Kids are a nuisance when remarrying, so I don't need him, she said in front of her son. But he stood up to her. I don't need a terrible mom like you. I have a cool dad, and that's enough. Never show your face to my cousin again, he said. She left with a final retort, you'll regret this later. However, it was my sister-in-law who ended up in tears when she triumphantly returned to her parents' house. They turned her away at the gate, banning her from ever showing her face there again. With nowhere to go, she resorted to spending nights with random men in exchange for meals and a place to stay. When she couldn't find a man, she borrowed money from dangerous sources and spent her nights out, accumulating massive debt. Her debts became so overwhelming that no amount of part-time work could cover them, and eventually, she disappeared. My husband and his parents decided not to file a missing persons report, reasoning she's not a child anymore. They agreed it's better this way, not willing to take care of her if she returns. Since then, my daughter has been able to go back to school on her own. Her former brother-in-law didn't move, so her cousin still attends the same school. He now says it's his turn to protect her, and they have become closer than ever. This has led to a deeper friendship between us and my former brother-in-law, as our children have brought us together. My in-laws call both my daughter and their grandson their dear grandchildren, stepping in as his guardians when he can't do to work. With my sister-in-law gone, there's no more tension, and we have built a very trusting and reliable family relationship. I can't find my special bracelet. I think my mother-in-law might have taken it without asking again. Don't be upset, it's a gift from Mom. Just try to accept it, my husband said. I often notice that my mother-in-law takes my things without asking, and my husband always supports her. I feel frustrated because he doesn't stand up for me. It's tough for me. Then something terrible happened. Someone stole my husband's favorite fancy car. I know who did it. My name is Emma, and I'm 28 years old. My happy life with my husband, Ethan, started to fall apart about a year after we got married. We both have jobs, but I finish work earlier, so I go home and start making dinner. That day, while waiting for my husband to come home, he surprised me with some big news. Mom's coming to stay with us from next week onwards. Wait, really? She's staying overnight? I couldn't believe it. My husband let out a big sigh. No, she's not just staying overnight. She's moving in. Moving in? Like living with us? I asked, trying to understand. Yeah, exactly. Since Dad passed away, Mom's been on her own. She's getting older, and it's tough for her, my husband explained. Wait a minute. You can't just decide this without talking to me. We have our own lives too. Can't you give me some time to think about it? I pleaded. But my husband just smiled and shrugged it off. It's okay, Mom wants to feel safe. She just wants to stay with us. I understand she might feel lonely and scared, but you made this big decision without asking me. Couldn't you have at least talked to me about it? Why do I have to tell you everything? She's my mom, he argued back. That's exactly it. She's your mom, not mine. I have to change everything because of this. What are you so upset about anyway? It's decided. Just deal with it, I argued back. Wait, I called out, but my husband ignored me and left the room, leaving me feeling frustrated. How could he decide we're all going to live together without even talking to me about it? I still have to adjust, no matter what. Ethan doesn't help out around the house and acts like it's no big deal because she's his mom. We've tried talking about it, but he just says, it's done, and shuts down the conversation. As expected, the next week, his mom, my mother-in-law, showed up at our house like it was planned. If she was a normal person, I wouldn't mind living together, but every time I see her, she says mean things and treats me badly. That's why I avoid going to her house unless I have to. But now, suddenly, we're supposed to live together. As I expected, my mother-in-law started criticizing me from the very first day. Emma, did you know I was coming today? There's trash in the corner, she scolded. I'm sorry, I was working and didn't have time to clean, I explained. Excuses. Couldn't you have cleaned up after work? But then I wouldn't have time to make dinner. Oh, come on. Stop arguing back. How do you even handle being Ethan's wife? Be more efficient. I'm sorry, I stuttered. Just 10 minutes in our house, and it's already like this. I'm really worried about what's going to happen next. From that day on, my mother-in-law's controlling behavior got worse, and it stressed me out constantly. Then one day, I came home from work, and my mother-in-law greeted me with a big smile, saying, "Welcome home." I usually don't get such a warm welcome, so it felt strange. Then I noticed something shiny around her neck. Wait, is that my necklace? It looked just like mine. Feeling uneasy, I hurried to my room and checked my jewelry box. My suspicion was right. I went straight to the living room and confronted my mother-in-law, who was sitting there calmly. That necklace, it's mine, isn't it? I accused. Oh, we finally noticed. It looks good on me, doesn't it? She replied shamelessly. What are you talking about? Stop using my things without asking. What's the big deal? It's not like it's going to disappear or anything. But that's not the issue here. Stop complaining and get dinner ready. Ethan will be home soon. Even while I was getting dinner ready, my mother-in-law kept interfering, making me more and more stressed. That night, I couldn't take it anymore and decided to talk to my husband. Hey, Ethan, can we talk? What's on your mind? Today I found your mother wearing my necklace without asking. Oh, so you're saying she went into my room, opened my jewelry box, and basically took it. Isn't that a bit of an exaggeration? How am I exaggerating? Come on, I'm sure Mom didn't mean any harm. I felt angry that my husband was taking his mother's side. Trying to stay calm, I continued to explain. So you're saying it's fine to just go into someone's room without asking and take their things? A normal person would at least apologize. Well, Mom probably just saw something she liked and took it. But that's not the point, Ethan. You need to talk to her. What? Me? Your mother disrespects me. Telling her off won't do anything, so you, her son, need to do it. Okay, fine. I'll handle it, all right? Despite my insistence, it seemed my husband forgot about it by the next day. I shot him a few angry looks, but he never confronted his mother. Since then, my mother-in-law started using my things without asking, basically borrowing them without permission. No matter how much I complained, she didn't listen. And since there are no locks on the doors in this house, telling her off would be pointless unless she changes her ways. If this keeps happening, I'll end up losing my belongings. I have to stop my mother-in-law's behavior. I need to come up with some sort of plan. Then, one day, something happened that I absolutely couldn't forgive. It's missing. How could this happen? Today, I had plans to meet up with a friend and wanted to wear my late mother's bracelet for the occasion. It's a precious item, so I never keep it in the jewelry box. Instead, it's hidden deep in my desk drawer. And yet, it's gone. The only person who could have taken it is my mother-in-law. When I confront her firmly, she casually admits to taking it. Of that bracelet, I just borrowed it. Then give it back right now. I need it. I can't do that. Why not? Because I sold it. What? You stole it? Is this some kind of joke? Who steals someone else's stuff? Though shaken, I stood my ground. Stop kidding around. Give it back now. I'm not kidding, by the way. Most of the things I've borrowed from you, I sold those too. What? What were you thinking? As I argued with my mother-in-law, my husband Ethan, who had just woken up, joined us. Ethan, listen to this. Quickly, I explained the situation. Your mom sold my bracelet, the one that belonged to my late mom. Plus, she's been selling off most of the things she's borrowed from me without asking. Mom, is this true? Faced with the question, my mother-in-law stuck out her tongue in a teasing way. I'm on a fixed income, you know. I don't want to be a burden, but I can't make ends meet without a little extra cash. You've got to be joking. Who gave you the right? Don't get so upset. I didn't mean any harm. If you meant no harm, you wouldn't be selling and taking other people's things. That's because, but I interrupted her. Where did you sell it? Get it back right now. Just then, my husband yelled, enough is enough. He wasn't looking at his mom, though. He was glaring at me. Confused, I asked him, why are you yelling at me, Ethan? Your mom took my bracelet without asking. Be quiet. I did it for Mom. Stop complaining. For Mom? Seriously. Why should I give up my precious things for her? Because it makes Mom happy. She's your mother-in-law. Show some respect. Just do as you're told. I couldn't handle it anymore. Not his mom stealing from me and not Ethan taking her side. I couldn't live like this anymore. Driven by growing anger, I shouted, that's it. If you won't give it back, let's get a divorce. Stop joking about divorce. I'm not joking. I'm serious. Fine, whatever. I'll get the divorce papers today. Fine, if that's what you want, I'm okay with it. As we argued, I noticed a satisfied look on his mom's face. She never liked me. Her real goal was probably to get rid of me and have this house to herself and her son. That night, my husband came home with divorce papers filled out. After signing them, I started packing. I decided to wait for the right moment to leave. The next day, during my work break, I saw multiple missed calls from my sister Sophia, who lived nearby. Something must have happened. I called her back, and she told me shocking news. Wait, Sophia, is that true? It is, no doubt about it. It's not common around here, but why? I took a photo, so I'll send it. Make sure to check it on your end too, sis. Okay, got it. After hanging up, my sister sent the photo. It was undeniable evidence that could expose my mother-in-law. When I got home and was calmly making dinner, my husband Ethan rushed in, looking worried. Emma, this is serious. What happened? My car, my prize car, is gone. Wow, that's serious. Why aren't you more worried? You know how much that car means to me. I do. It's the car I've been dreaming of since I was single, and I finally bought it last year, remember? Exactly. So be more concerned. We're still paying off the loan for it. Where could it have gone? Please don't tell me. Emma, did you take it? Of course not. I have my own car, and I know you'd be furious if I took yours. But then where? I glanced at my mother-in-law, and she quickly looked away. That confirmed my suspicion. Ethan, I think your mom knows something. What? Why would mom know? I asked her directly, and my mother-in-law's face turned pale. What are you talking about, Emma? How is mom involved? Well, I got a call from Sophia today. Sophia, she happened to be out shopping and saw your mom driving your car. What? That car is pretty unique, being a foreign model and blue. It's quite noticeable around here. Sophia even recognized the license plate. Wait, what's happening here, Ethan? Now visibly angry, Ethan confronted his mother. Mother-in-law started making excuses. No, Ethan, I just borrowed the car for a bit. Borrowed? Seriously? I've told you so many times not to touch that car. I'm sorry, but I really wanted to drive it. What on earth did you do with the car then? Did you leave it somewhere? No, not exactly, but I did leave the keys in the ignition. Someone from the neighborhood might have taken it. Stolen? Seriously? I swear I drove the car all the way home. I'm not lying. I showed my mother-in-law a photo to prove my point. Is this why you're lying? Did you wreck the car like this? I showed her a photo from my sister, Sophia. It clearly showed my mother-in-law driving a badly damaged luxury car. My sister sent this just in case. You took Ethan's car and wrecked it so badly that you couldn't drive it back, didn't you? No, that's not what happened. Where's the car anyway? And if someone stole it from the neighborhood, someone would have noticed, right? Well, my husband started shaking next to me, his voice full of anger as he yelled at his mother with a fierce look. Are you serious? You wrecked my car, and then what? Give it back now. Calm down, Ethan. How can I stay calm? You're paying for the repairs, got it? That's impossible. I've already sold the car. Sold it? That's not possible. The car is in my name. I found a dealer who said they'd buy any car. They said I could even sell it on behalf of someone else. So I sold it for $4,000. $4,000? The luxury car my husband bought would easily go for hundreds of thousands, even if sold now. My mother-in-law got tricked by some shady dealer who didn't know the car's value and got ripped off. When my husband found out, he was furious and yelled at his mom like never before. You've got to be kidding me. Do you realize how much that car meant to me? I'm sorry, Ethan. I'll give you back the $4,000, so please forgive me. $4,000 isn't even close to enough. Get out. My husband forcefully kicked his mother out and locked the door. He turned to me defeated and muttered, I never thought Mom could cause so much trouble. I'm sorry for not supporting you earlier. Finally, you understand. Don't worry, now that she's gone, I'm over it. Let's move forward happily together. No, we won't. What? Why not? I want a divorce. Instantly, his face turned pale and he clung to me. Wait a second. I already kicked Mom out. Why divorce now? Don't you understand? I'm done with you two. My decision to divorce stands. I don't want to fix things anymore. You've taken your mom's side too many times. It's not fair. You're being too harsh. Harsh? That's rich coming from you. You didn't lift a finger when I needed support. You're so selfish. I hate you just as much as I hate your mother. My feelings won't change, Emma. Calm down. Stop it. This all happened because you chose to live with her. Think about that. I'll never forgive you. What about the car? You got what was coming to you. You deserve it. What? You feel that way? Good. I hope you struggle with double the mortgage and car payments. You deserve the consequences. You'll have to deal with it. You son of a... I left him with those words and grabbed my packed bags. On my way out, I headed straight to City Hall to file for divorce. I deleted all his contact info and cut ties completely. Later, I demanded compensation from my mother-in-law for selling my belongings without my permission. She reluctantly started working. With demands for car payments from her son, she's likely working for the rest of her life. My husband is left with house and car loans, and his life has changed significantly. He no longer goes on stress-relieving drives, spending his days off confined to the house. A hopeless case, both mother and son. Karma's a real thing, serves you right. After all this, I moved to an apartment near my workplace. Now that I'm single again, I have more financial freedom, and life is much more peaceful. Since it's my day off, maybe I'll take a drive to the beach today. This is what freedom feels like. I plan to enjoy my new life to the fullest. Hi, I'm Lauren, and I work from home. My husband Daniel and I got married 3 years ago when we were both 33. We really wanted to have kids, so we went to a doctor to see if there were any problems that might make it hard for us to have a baby. Luckily, the doctor said everything was fine, which was a relief. But even after waiting for a while, we still weren't able to get pregnant. Just when we were starting to feel hopeless, Daniel suddenly said, "We need to have a baby to carry on the family line." I felt a bit confused by what he meant. Daniel is usually a good husband, but he tends to listen to his mom a lot. I'm not a big fan of his mom, though. She always seems to like Daniel best, even though he has a younger sister. His sister didn't like this special treatment, so she moved out of the house early on. Daniel's job involves moving around a lot, but when we got married, he was working close to his parents' house. Before we tied the knot, he warned me that he might have to move for work. But I didn't mind. I believed that as long as we were together, I could adjust to living anywhere. However, when we found a place to live near his parents' house, my mother-in-law started showing up at our place a lot, especially on Daniel's days off and even when I was working from home. She always had something to criticize about how I did things like laundry or cleaning, which really bothered me. What's more, every time we saw each other, she'd pester us about having a grandchild, saying it had to be a boy, not a girl. Her constant presence made me feel stressed out. I tried telling Daniel about the problems with his mom, but he just keeps saying, "She's just trying to be friendly, Lauren." But it's not helpful when someone stresses you out instead of getting along with you. I used to admire Daniel's optimism, which I lack, and I thought we balanced each other well. But we can't seem to fix this issue. Finally, 6 months ago, Daniel got transferred for his job, so we moved away from his parents' place. Our new home is far from my parents' house too. Unlike the rural area around my parents' place, Daniel's new workplace is in a busier area, kind of like a small city in Nebraska, with good transportation and facilities. Plus, it's less than an hour's drive from my parents' house. Moving relieved a lot of my stress. I could focus on my work, and life felt better. Then recently, I found out I was pregnant. Daniel and I were overjoyed. I'm a bit worried because I'm older, but we've been wanting this pregnancy for so long. When we told his parents, my mother-in-law immediately asked if it was a boy. Even though we didn't know the gender yet, she insisted it had to be a boy, but the baby turned out to be a girl. When my mother-in-law found out, she called me when Daniel wasn't around and said, "You're really useless. What did you marry into this family for?" I don't know if it was because of hormones or just feeling emotionally overwhelmed, but I couldn't stop crying. When Daniel came home and saw me, he got angry. When I told him what happened, he yelled, "Are you saying my mom did something wrong?" That just made me cry even more. Despite all this, Daniel still takes care of me and helps with the housework. So he's a good husband as long as his mom isn't involved. I safely delivered the baby and went back home a month later. Daniel picked me up, and on our way home, to my surprise, my mother-in-law was there. I didn't expect her to come to see her granddaughter, but she did. I had a bad feeling, but Daniel was oblivious and happily said, "My mom came to help." While he was busy with our daughter, my mother-in-law pulled out a box of cake from the fridge. "This is to celebrate your childbirth. I'm sure you didn't get to enjoy any good food while you were out in the countryside for your postnatal recovery, did you?" I was annoyed by the way she said it but tried to let it slide. "This cake costs $500, she exclaimed, handing me the box. $500. I was taken aback. I had never heard of such an expensive cake before. Nodding, my mother-in-law urged me to open it. I was curious to see what a $500 cake would look like. Excited, I placed the box on the table and opened it. But I was slightly disturbed by the smug look on my mother-in-law's face. The cake that came out of the box was not what you would expect from a $500 cake. The whipped cream was dried out, and the fruits on top were clearly canned oranges. I wondered which bakery would sell such a poor quality cake for that much money. I usually love sweets and can enjoy any cake, regardless of its price, but this was the first time I felt such disappointment the moment I opened a cake box. However, the story with my mother-in-law's cake didn't end there. I couldn't believe my eyes as I looked up from the cake. There she was grinning. "So how's the $500 cake?" she asked. At that point, I lost my temper and threw the cake box and all into the trash. Please leave. I shouted, surprised by my outburst. My husband rushed into the living room. Before I could say anything, my mother-in-law started crying. Lauren is being so mean, she said, then pointed at the trash can. My husband looked at it and became furious. What the hell had he done? That was a cake my mom went through all the trouble to make. As I lost the opportunity to mention the supposed $500 cake, my mother-in-law chimed in. Yes, that's right. I made that cake for you, so it's worth $500. Ah, so that's what it was. Of course, there's no way a cake like that could cost $500. Not even $50. Honestly, I wouldn't even buy it for $5. Everything finally clicked into place. No bakery would make such a disrespectful cake. As I was trying to process it all, my husband yelled, Lauren, apologize to Mom. It seemed like he always took my mother-in-law's side, no matter what. I stood there in shock, but then I heard our daughter crying, so I rushed to her. There was some noise from the other side of the door, but right then, my priority was comforting my daughter. After I finally got her settled down and returned to the living room, I found a note saying they had gone out to eat and that I should think about what I'd done. I was stunned. I wondered if I could stay living here with my husband, but I didn't know if it would be right to go crying to my parents. But I had nowhere else to go. While I was pondering this, I glanced at the trash can where I'd thrown the cake. It was still there, untouched. On a whim, I decided to take a picture of it. When I called my parents and told them everything, my dad said he'd come pick me up right away. I felt sorry for my newborn daughter. We had to move again, but it was better for both of us than staying where we were. My husband, who was supposed to be out for a meal, didn't come home as quickly as expected. My father arrived first. As he started loading our stuff into his car, my husband and mother-in-law finally came home. They seemed surprised to see my father there and got angry when they saw him carrying my things. Where are you going? Running to your parents again, huh? You always flee to them whenever things go wrong. His words were harsher than usual. It seemed he'd been drinking. His face was red and he smelled of alcohol. Seeing him like that, I lost my temper. You went drinking after leaving us, your wife and your newborn daughter, at home. Right now, I don't want to be in the same space as you two. That's why I decided to rely on my parents. Then my mother-in-law, who also smelled of alcohol, chimed in. Good riddance, a daughter-in-law like you is scary. Her comments always grated on my nerves. Fine, as you wish. I'll take my daughter and go. So please enjoy your time alone with my husband Daniel. When I said this, my husband looked confused, but I ignored him and got into my father's car. It seemed like my father was trying to keep his emotions in check and didn't intervene. The next day, my husband contacted me. Where are you? I woke up and was surprised to find you gone. All right, I had forgotten. Because he doesn't usually drink, but he tends to forget things when he does. I sighed. Don't you remember? You left your hungry wife and daughter at home to go out to eat with your mother, and then you came back drunk. After being treated and spoken to like that, I couldn't stay there anymore. While my husband sounded surprised and flustered, I could hear my mother-in-law in the background. My anger from yesterday returned. So your mother stayed over. I won't be going back to a home where such a rude person is staying. What do you mean? His voice lowered. She might be your mother, but she's a stranger to me. I'm exhausted from childbirth and don't have the energy to be considerate of others. Who do you think was the cause of our infertility? It was because your mother kept visiting and stressing me out. Otherwise, there's no way I would have gotten pregnant so soon after we moved and she stopped visiting. I was relieved not to see her mother's face. But when I came back home with our daughter, your mother was there, and I just can't stand this. Though I knew I was saying some hurtful things with all the resentment I had been holding back, I couldn't stop myself. And then my husband shouted over the phone, "You're the worst. Come back right now and apologize to my mom." When he said that, it felt like time had stopped for a moment. The next words that came out of my mouth were, "What?" As if to mock him, I continued, "The reason why I'm here with our child is because of your mother's request." When I said this coldly, my husband let out a confused sound. What? What do you mean? Your mother didn't want her daughter. She's always been saying that, hasn't she? She wanted us to have a son. Well, I didn't know how serious she was, but I was sure when I saw that cake. Cake. Did you see the chocolate plate? Huh, the chocolate plate on the cake? Or did you not even look at the cake itself? I had hit the nail on the head. The trash can where I threw out yesterday's cake was still empty, so it was probably still the way it was yesterday. With that in mind, I instructed my husband to go look in the kitchen trash can. But there's nothing in here. Did she get rid of the evidence in the middle of the night? Then why don't you ask your mother what was written on the chocolate plate and where she threw it away? Then I could hear their exchange on the other end of the phone. She was denying knowledge of any chocolate plate, suggesting that I was being delusional. She stubbornly refused to reveal where she discarded it. So how will my husband respond? She's saying she doesn't know anything about any plate. Even my husband sounded a bit hesitant. A bit weak, right? Wouldn't it be awful if Daniel saw that plate? Even if it's a lot of trouble, you got rid of it before he saw it, right? To get rid of the evidence, I could hear my husband's voice darken in the background. Behind my confused husband, I heard my mother-in-law's voice. Why don't you hurry up and come home? Tell her to entertain me. She's a really useless daughter-in-law. At her words, my husband finally seemed to be attempting to rein in his mother. I'm going to hang up and send a text. Maybe you and your mother should read it together. Contact me again when you're ready to talk. After saying that, I ended the call. I sent all the photos of the cake and played them for my husband. Within 30 minutes, he called back and said he would be heading over here right away. I stopped him. My father-in-law should be getting there soon. Stay there. With that, I hung up. In reality, my own father had been so enraged by my husband's behavior yesterday that he had contacted my in-laws. He had reported everything to my father-in-law. Unaware of this, my father-in-law had apologized profusely and said that he would go to my husband and have a talk by evening. My husband and in-laws arrived at my parents' house. As soon as he arrived, my husband bowed deeply to me, apologizing. I don't know anything about what's been happening or what happened this time. I didn't know my mother said such things to Lauren. Looking at my seemingly repentant husband, I felt myself growing cold. Don't you think it's too late to say you didn't know? Didn't we have this conversation when we were living in our previous home? Despite that, you sided with your mother, saying she just wanted to get close to me and did nothing to change her attitude towards me and my words. My husband started to turn pale. Plus, you always said that your mom absolutely wanted us to have a son. What's that about? Are you always going to do whatever your mother says? Since you chose your mom over your wife, I guess you don't need me, do you? My husband turned pale and clung to me. That's not it. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to. Then what did you mean? I retorted. My husband was at a loss for words and fell silent, looking down. Just as I thought, Daniel. You chose your mom over your own wife and daughter, a mother obsessed with her eldest son and a mama's boy. I should have realized sooner. It's no wonder your sister left home early. With this, my husband retorted, I'm not some mama's boy. I care about you too. Then could you really sever all ties with your mother? I fired back. At that, he fell silent. When I sighed, my mother-in-law, who was brought here by my father-in-law, yelled out, How can you say such a thing? Daniel and I are mother and son. We can never sever our ties. His father tried to calm her down, but she just wouldn't stop. To be frank, I never really liked you. I wanted a younger wife for Daniel, really. In that case, I'll be straightforward with you right now. I have divorce papers ready. If we divorce, then you and I can be strangers. Hearing this, my husband's face turned pale as he looked at me. I don't want to maintain a relationship with someone who would write these nasty things on my cake plate, I said coldly. Saying this, I pulled out my phone and showed everyone the picture of the plate that read, Take your daughter and leave. Upon seeing this, his father, perhaps not having been fully informed, angrily shouted at his wife, turning blue in the face. What you did to your own daughter, you did it against her daughter-in-law. I was shocked to hear this. Apparently, his mother had once served a birthday cake to her daughter with the words, I don't need a daughter, written on it, leading to their estrangement. Just how much she must hate women. Perhaps she thought she could get more attention by excluding the women close to her. Indeed, her son, Daniel, was acting just as she expected. When I handed my husband the divorce papers, he started making excuses. We just had a child. We shouldn't be getting a divorce. My mom just went a little too far this time. She was just jealous of you. Try to understand. Is that what you came here to say? I thought for sure you were going to tell me you were severing ties with your mother and coming back home. I'm never returning to that house. Then my father-in-law, who had been silent and pale-faced, spoke up. Daniel, sign the divorce papers. I'm done with this family. When I get home, I'm divorcing your mother too. What? His mother spun around at these unexpected words. I thought about it a few times before, but I thought it was too late for a divorce and that I just needed to be patient. But now that I see you doing the same thing to another woman, I've reached my limit. Sign our divorce paper and leave our house. Begrudgingly, my husband signed the divorce papers under his father's direction. As a consolation, I received around $10,000 from his father. At first, I declined, but I accepted gratefully when he assured me it would be deducted from his wife's assets. My ex-in-laws really did get divorced, and his mother seemed to rely on Daniel. But he refused to take her in, blaming her for the circumstance. Indeed, the family fell out. His mother, who hadn't worked since they got married, lost all the money she received in the property division after investing it all in cryptocurrency, which someone had recommended to her as an easy way to make money. I received child support from Daniel every month, and now I'm raising our daughter with the help of my parents. I'm so happy to see our daughter growing up and doing great. I started when I found out the truth. It surprised me, and I felt thankful to my father-in-law. It also made me feel free. My name's Charlotte, born in April, with a name that reminds you of blooming flowers. It's been 45 years since then. I've spent my life taking care of my family as a wife and mom, enjoying every day. But there were troubles beyond my family. Back then, my family was all I needed for happiness. I met my husband, Joseph, at a club in college. We hit it off, started dating, and eventually got married. We have a son, but he works in the city and only comes home every 6 months. So it's mostly just Joseph and me now. We used to love going back to places we visited when we were dating. How about Six Flags tomorrow on our day off? Joseph suddenly asked. Caught off guard, I tried to remember what happened 23 years ago at that amusement park. Let me think. Oh, I remember. After riding the teacups, I got dizzy and fell into a nearby pond. That's right, I was so embarrassed. I almost wish I didn't know you. You're so mean. Why did you let go of my hand then? We laughed about my embarrassing moment, making it a cherished memory. Even when it was just the two of us at home, we never lost our cheerful spirit. We had a happy life. Joseph's work shifts meant we sometimes didn't see much of each other, but I adjusted my schedule to match his, so I rarely felt lonely. Then, something major happened that would change everything. Our father-in-law was diagnosed with terminal pancreatic cancer. The surgery was tough, and the chances of survival were very low. It was a terrible illness. Both Joseph and I were filled with anger, clenching our fists in frustration. When a loved one gets seriously ill, you feel lost, not knowing what to do. Joseph's sister lived in the next town over, but she didn't know about this yet. Joseph decided to call her. After 7 rings, a loud, shrill voice answered the phone. Why are you calling at this hour? I'm busy making dinner, she grumbled when Joseph called her. We need to talk about something important. We'll come over tomorrow evening, Joseph replied, ignoring her complaints. Even though she wasn't thrilled about the sudden visit, there were more important things to worry about. After giving her the necessary information, Joseph hung up. Normally, Joseph didn't pay much attention to his carefree sister-in-law. She rarely showed up at family events and didn't really get along with him. But this time was different. The next day, we quickly took time off and went to her house. When we rang the doorbell, her husband, who wasn't the friendliest person, answered first. He opened the door with a stern expression, giving us an intimidating look. It wasn't a welcoming sight. In the living room, she gave us a cold stare. Even though we hadn't seen each other in 6 months, she treated us worse than strangers. Amidst the tension, Joseph fixed his intense gaze on her. As he told her about their father's illness, she said something shocking. So what? Are you blaming Dad for getting sick? You didn't come here expecting me to take care of him, did you? Instead of feeling sad about her father's illness, she seemed more worried about inconvenience to herself. It was the first time I saw a daughter disrespect her sick father like that, and I felt embarrassed for her as a fellow human being. My anger rose, and even my parents, who had planned to speak calmly, were getting frustrated. That's too much. You're his daughter, aren't you? Even if a loved one is suffering, you can't be so cold. If the situation were reversed, you would definitely be upset. I hoped she would think about what I said and calm down. But I was wrong. Don't lecture me. There's no rule saying I have to care for him just because I'm his daughter. If you're so worried, why don't you do it? Joseph is his child too. True, Joseph is also his father's child, so it's unfair to expect his sister to shoulder all the responsibility when she's being so irresponsible. I thought she should step up and help out during this tough time. But people like her are good at finding excuses. What she said wasn't entirely wrong, and I realized it was pointless to argue further. So I let it go, even though we didn't want to league our father-in-law to his daughter, who clearly didn't want to deal with it. As a working couple, we didn't have the time. Unlike her, I found fulfillment in my job, and if Joseph had to quit, it would strain our finances. As I weighed my options, my sister-in-law revealed her trump card with a smug look on her face. "Hey Charlotte, you have a nursing certification, right? You know more than me, a total amateur. It'd be best if you took care of him. Patients feel better with a professional, don't they?" I had worked as a certified nursing assistant, CNA, in a nursing home 15 years ago and got certified so I could care for my parents if needed, since I'm an only child. Knowing it would be pointless to argue with my sister-in-law further, we decided to go home and think things over. "I'm sorry you have such an uncaring and troublesome sister-in-law. She's not the type to listen even if I spoke up, so I didn't say anything." "It's all right. I knew no matter what you said, it wouldn't change anything." "It's not your fault, Joseph. What should we do?" I asked. "I know you love your job, and I don't want to take that away from you just because my dad got sick. But seeing Joseph care so much about me made me happy. Unlike my sister, I'm not heartless. I want to cherish every moment with my dad," Joseph replied. "Don't worry about me. I'll figure out my job situation later. What matters most is that I met you because of your dad." "I'm grateful for that," I said, holding Joseph's hand as I saw the regret in his eyes. "Let's face this together," I continued, seeing Joseph's expression lighten a bit. "The biggest problem here is money, right?" While talking with Joseph, we discovered that my father-in-law had only signed up for the cheapest insurance available. That meant we have to pay for most of his care out of our own pockets. "Well, his daughters definitely won't offer to chip in," Joseph said. "They should be contributing more if they're not going to help take care of him." Their lack of reliability was disheartening, even though I hadn't expected much from them to begin with. Taking care of a sick person requires finding motivation when you're at your lowest. It's not an easy task. It felt like a battle with myself. The next day, I made the tough decision to leave my job in the bar kitchen, where I enjoyed working with the younger staff. When I explained the situation, everyone understood, though they were disappointed to see me go. "Please come back when you can," they said. Their words gave me strength and became my motivation for the challenges ahead. With that, I headed straight to the hospital where my father-in-law was waiting. When I arrived, I saw my father-in-law sitting quietly with his back to the entrance. I couldn't tell if he was looking out the window or sleeping, but his loneliness and sadness were palpable, and I couldn't find the right words to speak. After about 30 seconds, I took a deep breath and approached him. As I tried to gather my thoughts, my father-in-law spoke first. "Charlotte, thank you for coming. I'm sorry to be such a burden," my father-in-law said, his face softening as he greeted me. Then a look of worry crossed his face, his expression darkening. Despite his illness, he was so considerate. It angered me that his own daughter, my sister-in-law, couldn't be bothered to be here. "Please let me know if there's anything I can do for you," I replied. I knew I couldn't understand the pain of his illness, but I wanted to support him as best as I could. After finishing my morning tasks, I made the 40-minute journey to the hospital every day. I used to drive to work, but now I took the bus to spend more time with my father-in-law, even if it meant less sleep. The bus rides were calming, giving me a brief break and some energy for the tough days ahead. As I watched my father-in-law's health decline, I poured my heart and energy into making him comfortable. The medical procedures, like IVs and medication, were necessary but complicated. Unlike a simple IV for a cold, he needed a catheter placed near his heart through surgery below his collarbone. It was distressing, but it was the best we could do since he wasn't a candidate for surgery. "Try this," I said, handing him a Walkman. My father-in-law loved karaoke and used to practice daily, but his hospitalization had stopped that. I wanted him to keep his passion for music alive, so I loaded his favorite songs onto the Walkman as a gift. He put on the headphones and pressed play. Instantly, his face lit up with joy. I thought I wouldn't be able to listen to music anymore. "Thank you so much. Now I have to win another karaoke competition when I get discharged," my father-in-law said with a smile. I felt a bit relieved. Despite the unfamiliar hospital environment and tough daily treatments, he never complained. In fact, he seemed more worried about me. Sorry for causing you trouble and expenses. I wish we had traveled more with you and Joseph. I've always wanted to go to that place, he said, showing me a picture on his phone. It was a field full of lavender flowers. Wow, that's beautiful, I exclaimed. This place used to be just a field, but now it's turned into such a beautiful spot because of urban development. Lavender is my favorite flower. My father-in-law's eyes sparkled. I wished for his recovery even more urgently. From then on, I decided to stop by a florist before going to the hospital for my father-in-law, who loved flowers. After you left, I felt lonely, but having flowers around changes things. I found myself talking to the flowers, and the nurses looked at me like I was strange. We shared a good laugh over this. 2 weeks later, a feeding tube was attached to my father-in-law, who had been eating normally until then. His body was visibly turning more yellow, and his voice calling my name lost its energy. I had to suppress my fear and act strong, which was tough. I hadn't expected him to become bedridden in just 2 weeks after the cancer diagnosis. The disease's severity weighed heavily on me. I wanted to say, "Stay strong, Dad," but I knew he would be the most frustrated. He probably didn't want to admit that he was weak and would blame his body for not cooperating. His occasional smile showing strength was a relief for me. I often excused myself to the restroom, unable to hold back my tears. After washing my face with cold water to calm down, I returned to his room. Joseph also spent quality time with his father during breaks or days off. I found solace in alone time at a cafe in the hospital. Father-in-law seemed happier when talking with his son, so I made sure they had plenty of time together. An hour later, when I returned to the room, they were discussing insurance money. I want my modest insurance money to go to Charlotte, who's taking great care of me, father-in-law said, turning towards me. He had changed the beneficiary to ensure that I would receive the money if something happened to him. Then the door flung open with a bang, and my sister-in-law stormed in, hurling abuse. I heard your conversation. Why did you change the beneficiary to her? It used to be me. Change it back immediately or I'll spread the word that you're the worst father ever. Her words stunned both Joseph and me. Surprisingly, father-in-law defended her. Okay, I understand. If you feel strongly about it, I'll change the beneficiary back to you. But promise me you'll stop saying hurtful things to Charlotte. She's Joseph's beloved wife, and I won't allow her to be hurt, no matter what, he said sternly. It seemed my sister-in-law's obsession with money was intense. Once father-in-law said that, she nodded quietly and left the room. I wanted to follow her out of disbelief, but my husband and father-in-law stopped me, so I reluctantly sat down. However, something about their behavior seemed off, leaving me with a big question mark in my mind. Hey, why are you guys laughing? I asked, puzzled by their amusement. My father-in-law began to explain between chuckles. That silly girl really believed all my assets were tied up in insurance and went home. Your plan worked well, Dad, he said, handing me 3 bank cards from a locked drawer. He revealed that they held a fortune beyond my wildest imagination, leaving me speechless with surprise. I knew you were wealthy, father-in-law, but why were you only enrolled in a single minimal insurance plan? I wondered aloud. However, he'd assured me that the insurance plan was decent, promising $10 million in case of his death. All my assets are on these cards. I know I don't have much time left, so I want you to use it. I'm sorry for all the expenses I put you through with my hospital bills, flowers, and clothes, he explained sincerely. No, the money we spent isn't a big deal at all. We can't accept such a huge sum. It would feel like a punishment, I protested. Just take it as a token of gratitude for taking care of me, and remember, keep this a secret from her, my father-in-law insisted. It seemed that, like us, he didn't think highly of my sister-in-law due to her selfish behavior and lack of consideration for family. That's why we had decided to leave her only the bare minimum, if anything, if something happened to him. Won't you accept my offer? Faced with their earnest gazes, I found it hard to refuse. I felt guilty but agreed nonetheless. 2 weeks later, following my father-in-law's wish to spend his remaining time in a more home-like environment receiving palliative care, we moved into a hospice. We reached out to my sister-in-law just in case, but her only response was, "Good for you." It was truly an eye-rolling moment. Despite her absence, the warm conversation between the 3 of us continued. I'm sorry for causing you trouble with my secret, but there's one more thing. Did you know my father was Martino Aaron? My father-in-law revealed. What do you mean, the famous singer? I've seen him on the hit nostalgia song show. Are you serious? That's news to me, I exclaimed. This was big news. Even Joseph didn't know. Apparently, it was not public knowledge that my father-in-law was Martino Aaron's son. He was a secret child, and because Martino Aaron was a public figure, it was kept under wraps. However, Martino Aaron apparently doted on my father-in-law behind the scenes and shared his wealth with him before he passed away. When I'm gone, go here, my father-in-law said, handing us a piece of paper with an address written on it. He kept evading our questions for more details. A month later, after living his final days at the hospice, my father-in-law peacefully passed away. Father-in-law, I sobbed, calling for him one more time, but there was no answer. Gratitude welled up in me for how he had always treated me like his own daughter, and tears streamed down my face as we stood by his side, leaning on Joseph for support. At the funeral, my sister-in-law arrived and began crying loudly, a stark contrast to her previous attitude. She talked to the attendees as if she deeply cared for her father. I wanted to expose her true intentions of only caring about money, but I knew it wouldn't make my father-in-law happy. Instead, I decided to think of her as a stranger, which eased my mind somewhat. After the funeral, she didn't bother us, and we didn't bother with her either. A week after my father-in-law's passing, Joseph and I went to the location written on the piece of paper he had given us. We were astonished by what we found. What is this? We both exclaimed as we stood before an enormous, opulent mansion, unlike anything we had ever seen before. Unsure of what to do, we decided to explore the vast gardens first. Suddenly, a woman emerged from the house, startling me so much that I fell backward. I'm sorry, I didn't think anyone was here, she said with a kind smile as she invited us inside. The interior was extravagant with marble, diamonds, and ornate decorations. It felt like we had stepped into a dream. The woman guided us to a room with plush chairs where we sat down. As I tried to process the reality of the situation, she began to speak slowly. I've been the caretaker of this house. Your father owned it and used it to entertain his friends from time to time. Every time someone would visit, I would come to assist. But now, there's no longer a need for me to be here. Your father's final wish was to hand over the ownership of this house to you, Joseph and Charlotte. After saying this, she handed us a set of keys, a map of the house, and a notebook detailing the location of various valuables. I'm glad to have met the people your father treasured the most. I wish you happiness, she said before leaving. After 2 hours of exploring, we found a letter from my father-in-law in a desk drawer in the study. It stated that we could live in or sell the house as we wished. We couldn't express our gratitude to him enough for leaving us not only a fortune, but also this grand mansion. With him no longer with us, all we could do was continue living in this world for his sake. The following month, we decided to visit a hotel that my father-in-law had wanted to go to for 15 years. On the way there, we played his favorite music and talked to a photo of him. Father-in-law, we're finally going on a trip together. Let's have a blast today, I said suddenly, and a leaf fell and stuck to our car window, shaking lightly. It felt like father-in-law had answered us, which made me happy. 3 hours later, we arrived at the historic hotel he had spoken of, nestled in a quiet spot surrounded by peaceful nature. Photos of several past presidents adorned the walls, adding to its recognition and importance. After we were shown to our spacious room, we sat down on the sofa, enjoying the welcome drinks and fresh fruits. It's been a while since we've been able to enjoy a leisurely trip like this, Joseph remarked. Yeah, well, Dad's with us today, I replied. It had been a while since Joseph and I shared a meaningful glance, and I couldn't help but feel a bit embarrassed. After indulging in the spa and exploring the hotel, it was finally time for the meal we had eagerly awaited since we had ordered for 3. The room service staff, upon delivering our meal, was quite surprised when we explained the situation. They nodded in understanding with a kind smile. After reminiscing about my father-in-law for a while, they even offered us a complimentary bottle of wine. This is delicious, just like Dad would say, I exclaimed. I wasn't used to drinking much, so I got a bit tipsy that day, and my memory became a bit hazy. However, Joseph, who had a higher tolerance for alcohol, remembered my actions and recounted them to me the next morning. Last night, you kept caressing Dad's picture and saying, I love you. You've said that to me only a few times. I felt a bit jealous of Dad, he said, laughing. As we drove along a different route than the day before, we shared this humorous anecdote. Then suddenly, we spotted it. Lavender blooming as far as the eye could see. There was no mistaking it. This was the place my father-in-law had shown us in the photo. Embraced by the gentle beauty of the lavender, I felt invigorated, no longer trapped in sadness, but eager to face forward. Dad told me once that Mom used to gaze at the lavender a lot before she passed away, Joseph shared. Realizing that my father-in-law had brought us here out of love for his wife touched my heart deeply. Since then, we've started bringing lavender to the grave. It has become a precious flower for our family, warming our hearts and spirits. Once we return to our normal lives, we begin spending our weekends in the luxurious house my father-in-law left us. Thanks to this, every week felt like a vacation. My love for Joseph deepened and my gratitude to my father-in-law overflowed. I can't count how many times tears of joy soaked my clothes. Fast forward a month later, it was a weekday around 7 p.m. After Joseph came home and took a bath, I was preparing dinner when the doorbell rang. When I checked the monitor, I saw my sister-in-law. She rarely comes to our house. I wanted to pretend we weren't home, but with Joseph's car in the driveway and the lights on, that wasn't possible. As I hesitated, my impatient sister-in-law began pounding on the door. Worried about the neighbors noticing, I quickly turned off the stove and hurried to the door. As soon as I opened it, she started yelling before the door fully closed. Where the hell are you two? On the weekend. It seemed she had come to our house over the weekend, but Joseph and I weren't there. I couldn't tell her why, so I remained silent as she glared at me threateningly. All right, come this way, I said, leading her to the living room. I didn't want her lingering at the front door, so I intended to let Joseph handle her. Just then, Joseph, fresh from his bath, appeared at the entrance, and I sighed in relief. What brings you here around dinner time? Joseph asked straightforwardly. As I watched them, he led her to the living room, and the conversation continued. I came to light incense for Dad at the family altar over the weekend, but you two were nowhere to be found, she said self-righteously. Her tone still irked me. Then, out of the blue, Joseph dropped the bombshell. I actually spent my weekend dating Charlotte, trying to pass on all the love that Dad gave me. Sorry if this doesn't sit well with you. A sister who has to deal with her husband being lovey-dovey with another woman, Joseph said. My voice and sister-in-law's overlapped in shock. What? She exclaimed. Sister-in-law was visibly shaken by this unexpected revelation. There's no way. What are you talking about? There's no way he could be interested in any other woman but me, sister-in-law protested. Immediately after, Joseph took out his mobile phone from his pocket and showed a picture to sister-in-law. Curiosity piqued, I peeked at the photo, and sure enough, it was sister-in-law's husband arm in arm with another woman. Sister-in-law's fury and sadness reached the peak, and she seemed to stop caring about me and Joseph. As soon as she got the picture forwarded from Joseph, she stormed off. The next day and the day after, when I asked Joseph, who didn't talk about sister-in-law, what happened to the couple, he said he didn't know because he had blocked sister-in-law's contact. I don't consider her a sibling anymore. All I want is to live a peaceful daily life with you, Joseph said. Fast forward a month later, while out shopping with Joseph as usual, we bumped into a neighbor from where sister-in-law lived. Apparently, the sister-in-law couple was in the midst of divorce discussions, with the husband completely out of love with sister-in-law and a reluctant sister-in-law still not wanting to split despite the infidelity. As much as it sounds like a tough situation, I've decided to stop worrying about sister-in-law and just focus on living my own life. As long as I have Joseph, I have nothing to fear. Father-in-law always used to say the key to happiness is to laugh a lot and think out loud. I'm going to go back to my old job soon, but I plan on adhering to father-in-law's advice and enjoying life to the fullest, even for father-in-law's sake. Joseph and I both love to sing, and we've promised to participate in a karaoke competition together. Our goal: to make it to the same podium that father-in-law did, to reach the top as we let our singing voices resonate towards the heavens.